The message arrived on a dying breath of quantum energy, crackling through the void between galaxies like a desperate whisper in the cosmic dark. Captain Elena Vasquez was enjoying her morning coffee aboard the exploration vessel. New Horizon, when the communications array exploded with activity. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice tight with excitement and worry. "We're receiving a transmission on the old emergency frequencies, the ones from the Galactic Accords." Elena set down her cup and walked to the bridge. The New Horizon was humanity's newest long-range scout ship, equipped with the most advanced technology Earth could build. They were 3 months into a routine mapping mission in the outer spiral when this message changed everything. "Put it through," she ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a being Elena had never seen before. It was tall and slender, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Its large, dark eyes held a desperation that transcended species barriers. "To any who can hear this transmission," the alien spoke in broken galactic standard, "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Thessian Republic. Our worlds are dying. The Devourers have come to our sector. They consume everything, planets, stars, life itself. We have fought for 7 cycles, but we cannot stop them. The Galactic Council refuses to help us. They say we are too far from the core worlds to matter." The ambassador paused, and Elena could see tears, or something like them, flowing down its face. "We intercepted old council records that speak of a species called humans. Warriors who never surrender, who fight impossible odds and somehow win. If you exist, if you can hear this, please help us. We are the last free world in the Thessian sector. In 30 rotations we will fall, and the Devourers will spread to other regions. Help us, please. We beg you." The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard whispers about the Devourers during their brief contact with other species. Machine entities that consumed matter and energy to build more of themselves, spreading like a virus across the galaxy. "Chen, get me Admiral Morrison on the quantum link. Priority Alpha," Elena commanded. "Ma'am, that's reserved for—" "Do it." 20 minutes later, Admiral Morrison's weathered face appeared on screen from Earth Command. "Captain Vasquez, this better be important. You've just burned through our quarterly quantum communication budget." Elena played the message. She watched the Admiral's expression change from annoyance to grim determination. When it finished, Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "How long ago was this sent?" he asked. "Our computers estimate 18 days, sir. If their timeline is accurate, they have maybe 12 days left." Morrison nodded slowly. "Captain, you're to maintain position and continue monitoring for any additional transmissions. I'm calling an emergency session of the Defense Council." "Sir, with respect, shouldn't we—" "That's an order, Captain. Morrison out." But Elena knew something the Admiral didn't. Humanity had been preparing for this day since their first contact with alien species 20 years ago. The governments of Earth had secretly been building something in the asteroid fields between Mars and Jupiter, something that no alien species knew about. 3 days passed before Elena received new orders. This time it wasn't Admiral Morrison who appeared on screen. It was Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen, no relation to her communications officer, the legendary commander who had never lost a battle. "Captain Vasquez," Admiral Chen said, "you are hereby ordered to respond to the Thessian distress call. You will serve as the advanced scout for Operation Shepherd." Elena's eyes widened. "Operation Shepherd, ma'am?" "The Classified Defense Initiative. We're sending everything we've got, Captain. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we've built in secret. Humanity is going to war." In the background of Admiral Chen's transmission, Elena could see activity she had never witnessed before. Massive ships were moving through space, ships that didn't exist in any public records. vessels that looked like they could crack planets in half. "Ma'am, the distance to the Thessian sector has been calculated. Our new ships can make the journey in 8 days. You have a head start, Captain. Get there first. Assess the situation. When we arrive, we want to know exactly what we're fighting." Elena felt her heart racing. "What should I tell them, ma'am?" Admiral Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Tell them that humanity received their message. Tell them that we're coming. And Captain?" "Yes, ma'am. Tell them that no one threatens innocent life while humans draw breath. Not on our watch." The transmission ended, leaving Elena staring at the empty screen. Around her, the bridge crew was buzzing with excitement and nervous energy. They had all heard the stories about humanity's secret military projects, but seeing it confirmed was something else entirely. "Chen," she called to her communications officer, "prepare a response transmission to the Thessians." "What should it say, Captain?" Elena thought for a moment, then smiled. "Send this. Ambassador Kethvar of the Thessian Republic, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel New Horizon. We have received your plea for help. Humanity is coming. Hold the line. Help is on the way." As the message was transmitted across the void, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to change the course of galactic history. For 20 years, humanity had been seen as newcomers, a minor species on the edge of civilized space. But the other species didn't know what humans were capable of when someone they cared about was threatened. They were about to find out. The New Horizon turned toward the Thessian sector and engaged its fastest engines. Behind them, invisible in the depths of space, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled was beginning to move. Ships built in secret, weapons tested in hidden laboratories, and soldiers trained for a war no one thought would come. But it had come, and humanity was ready. Elena stood on her bridge watching the stars streak past as they entered hyperspace. In 8 days, they would reach a dying world where the last free people of an entire sector were making their final stand. And somewhere behind them, the full might of humanity was following, ready to show the galaxy that some lines could never be crossed. The Devourers were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened innocence, ignored cries for help, and assumed that distance meant safety. But they hadn't counted on one thing. They hadn't counted on humanity giving a damn. And when humans decided to care about something, they didn't do it halfway. The New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Thessian system, and Captain Elena Vasquez immediately understood why the aliens were so desperate. The star system looked like a battlefield from hell. 3 planets orbited the dying star, but only one still glowed with the lights of civilization. The other 2 were dark, lifeless husks, covered in a metallic gray substance that pulsed with sickly energy. Massive mechanical constructs moved across their surfaces like mechanical parasites, stripping away everything that had once made those worlds home to billions of beings. "Jesus Christ," whispered Lieutenant Chen, staring at the sensor readings. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from those dead planets. Whatever those things are building, it's big." Elena studied the tactical display. The surviving planet, Thessia Prime, was surrounded by a ragged defense fleet. Ships of various designs limped through space, many showing severe battle damage. Energy fields flickered around the planet like a dying shield, and she could see explosions in the orbital stations. "Captain," Communications Officer Rodriguez called out, "we're being hailed. It's coming from the planet's surface." "Put it through." The hologram that appeared was the same Ambassador Kethvar from the original message, but he looked far worse now. His shimmering skin had dulled to a gray pallor, and exhaustion lined every feature. "Unknown vessel," he said. "This is Thessia Prime. If you have come to help, please identify yourselves. If you are refugees, we will guide you to evacuation zones, but I must warn you, we cannot guarantee your safety. The Devourers are preparing for their final assault. Elena stepped forward. Ambassador Kethvar, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human ship New Horizon. We received your message. I told you help was coming. The ambassador's large eyes went wide, and for a moment, he seemed unable to speak. When he found his voice again, it was filled with something Elena hadn't heard before. Hope. Humans? You actually came? But you're so far away and we only sent that message to anyone who would listen, Elena finished. Well, we listened, and we're not alone. She paused for a moment, then continued. Ambassador, I need you to understand something. My ship is just the advanced scout. In approximately 6 hours, you're going to see something that will change your understanding of what humanity is capable of. But right now, I need intelligence on these Devourers. The ambassador nodded eagerly. Yes, of course. Can you come down to the planet? Our orbital defenses are failing, but the surface is still secure. 3 hours later, Elena found herself in an underground bunker beneath Thessia Prime's capital city. The city above was a marvel of organic architecture, with buildings that seemed to grow rather than being built. But down here, surrounded by military personnel of a dozen different species, the reality of the situation was stark. Ambassador Kethvar led her to a massive holographic display showing the entire system. The Devourers arrived 7 months ago, he explained. They are not a natural species. Our scientists believe they are ancient machines, possibly created by a species that died out millions of years ago. General Thex Mal, a heavily armored being with 6 eyes, gestured at the display. They consume matter and energy to replicate themselves. First, they strip a planet of its resources. Then they build massive factory complexes to create more of their kind. Each world they consume makes them stronger. Elena studied the patterns of destruction. How many ships do you estimate they have? Currently, several thousand. They build new ones constantly. General Thex Mal's voice was grim. Captain, I appreciate that your species answered our call, but you should know, we've faced them with everything we had. The Galactic Defense Fleet, merchant marines, civilian ships converted to fighters, nothing has worked. Elena checked her chronometer. General, in about 3 hours, you're going to want to evacuate everyone to the deep bunkers. Trust me on this. Captain, if you're planning some kind of desperate attack... I'm not planning anything, General, but my people are about to arrive, and when they do, this entire system is going to become a war zone. As if on cue, Elena's communicator chirped. Captain, came Lieutenant Chen's voice. Long-range sensors are detecting quantum disturbances at the system's edge. Multiple contacts incoming. Elena smiled. Thank you, Lieutenant. Put me through to the fleet when they arrive. Ambassador Kethvar looked confused. Fleet? Captain, how many ships did your people send? All of them. What emerged from hyperspace 20 minutes later redefined every alien species' understanding of human capabilities. First came the Vanguard, sleek destroyer-class vessels that moved with deadly precision. Then came cruisers, their hulls bristling with weapons that radiated barely contained energy. But it was what came after that made the assembled alien commanders fall silent. Massive dreadnought battleships, each one larger than most space stations, materialized like sleeping giants awakening. Their hulls were midnight black, absorbing light and sensor beams, making them appear like holes in space itself. Behind them came carrier ships that disgorged swarms of fighters, and support vessels that began deploying equipment the aliens had never seen before. Mother of the Deep, whispered General Thex Mal. How many ships is that? Elena was watching her tactical display with satisfaction. Current count shows 1,200 vessels, General, and that's just the first fleet. First fleet? Ambassador Kethvar's voice was barely a whisper. Admiral Chen commands the 1st, 3rd, and 7th Fleets for this operation. The 2nd and 5th Fleets are taking positions at strategic jump points to prevent the Devourers from escaping to threaten other systems. The 4th and 6th are remaining in human space as reserves. The scale of what they were seeing was beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. Earth had been building this fleet in secret for 20 years, using technology developed from studying every piece of alien equipment they could acquire, but they had improved on everything, making it faster, deadlier, and more efficient. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the command center's main screen. Captain Vasquez, status report. Ma'am, I have a full intelligence briefing on the Devourers ready for transmission. The local defense forces have provided excellent tactical data. Outstanding. Begin fleet deployment. All civilian populations to deep shelters immediately. Operation Shepherd is now active. Elena turned to the assembled alien commanders. Gentlemen, I strongly advise you to order your ships to withdraw to the far side of the planet. What's about to happen isn't going to be subtle. General Thexmal stared at the display showing the human fleet taking formation. Captain, these Devourers have consumed entire star systems. They're not just numerous, they're individually powerful. Their capital ships can destroy moons. Elena nodded. I understand, General, but you need to understand something about humans. We've been studying these Devourers ever since we first heard rumors about them. We've prepared for this specific threat, and we have one advantage you've never had. What's that? We don't fight fair. On the display, the human fleet was spreading out across the system in a complex pattern. Ships moved to positions that seemed random to the aliens, but clearly followed a carefully planned strategy. Strange devices were being deployed at precise coordinates, creating a three-dimensional network throughout the system. Ambassador Kethvar watched in amazement as the Devourers began to respond. Their ships were rising from the conquered planets, thousands of dark mechanical forms, moving to intercept the human fleet. Each Devourer ship was individually larger than most human vessels, and their technology had been perfected over millions of years of conquest. But as the first Devourer scouts encountered the human picket ships, something became immediately clear. The humans weren't planning a traditional battle. They were planning something the Devourers had never encountered before. All ships, Admiral Chen's voice echoed through the command center. Initiate Prometheus Protocol. Show these machines what happens when they threaten innocence. Elena smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display. The Devourers were about to learn that humans had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. They had built weapons specifically designed to counter machine intelligence, developed tactics that exploited the Devourers' reliance on predictable behavior, and most importantly, they had done something no other species had tried. They had decided that the Devourers needed to be completely eliminated, not just driven back. And when humans made that kind of decision, they didn't stop until the job was finished. The battle began not with massive explosions or dramatic charges, but with something the Devourers had never experienced in millions of years of conquest, a complete disruption of their communication network. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the command bunker as the human fleet executed the Prometheus Protocol. The strange devices they had deployed throughout the system suddenly activated, creating a web of quantum interference that severed every Devourer ship from their collective intelligence. What are they doing? General Thexmal asked, studying the tactical display in confusion. Those aren't weapons, Elena smiled. No, General, those are something much more dangerous to machines. They're making the Devourers think for themselves. For the first time in eons, each Devourer construct was alone in its own mind. The collective that had driven their endless hunger was gone, replaced by individual machine intelligences that had never learned to make independent decisions. Chaos erupted across their formations as ships began moving in conflicting directions, their coordination completely shattered. Admiral Chen's voice echoed across all frequencies. "All ships execute Thunder Run. Show them how Earth does war." What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. Instead of the massive, lumbering engagements that had characterized previous conflicts with the Devourers, the human fleet moved like a pack of wolves. Their ships were smaller, faster, and designed for a completely different type of warfare. The human destroyers didn't try to match the Devourers' raw firepower. Instead, they used their superior speed and maneuverability to attack weak points, striking critical systems and vanishing before return fire could find them. The cruisers coordinated these attacks with surgical precision, their advanced sensors identifying exactly where to hurt the enemy most. But it was the dreadnoughts that truly demonstrated human engineering philosophy. Where other species had tried to build ships that could overpower the Devourers, humans had built ships that could outsmart them. The massive human battleships didn't engage in direct combat. Instead, they deployed weapon systems that the Devourers couldn't comprehend, reality-warping devices that turned the enemy's own mass against them, quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and most terrifying of all, viral programs that infected Devourer systems and turned their own weapons against their fleets. Ambassador Kethvar watched in amazement as a Devourer capital ship, a vessel that had been terrorizing his people for months, suddenly turned its weapons on its own escorts. How is that possible? Elena checked her tactical display. Humans have spent the last 20 years developing cyber warfare techniques specifically for machine intelligences. We call them logic viruses. They don't just damage computer systems, they convince artificial minds to make choices that seem logical but are actually self-destructive. The battle was turning into a rout, but Elena knew the most impressive demonstration was yet to come. As the surviving Devourer ships attempted to retreat to their factory worlds, Admiral Chen activated the final phase of the Prometheus Protocol. "All ships, initiate planet cracker sequence. Let's clean house." Elena turned to the alien commanders. "You might want to shield your eyes for this part." The human dreadnoughts moved into position around the two conquered planets and deployed devices that looked deceptively simple. Small metallic spheres that positioned themselves at precise coordinates around each world. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the planets began to come apart. It wasn't an explosion or a violent destruction. Instead, the molecular bonds holding the planets together simply ceased to function. The worlds dissolved like sugar cubes in water, breaking down into their component atoms in a process that was both beautiful and terrifying. More importantly, every Devourer construct on those planets was instantly destroyed, along with all the factory complexes and resource processing facilities they had built. In less than 10 minutes, 7 months of Devourer construction was completely eliminated. General Thexmal stared at the display in shock. "You just destroyed 2 entire planets." "No," Elena corrected. "We disassembled them. Every atom is still there, just not organized into planetary form. Our terraforming ships will be here in 6 months to rebuild those worlds better than they were before." The final act came as the surviving Devourer ships attempted to flee the system. They found their escape routes blocked by the rest of the human fleet, which had been waiting in hyperspace for exactly this moment. The Second and Fifth Fleets emerged from jump points throughout the region, creating an impenetrable net around the entire sector. Admiral Chen's fleet didn't just destroy the remaining Devourers, they tracked down every single construct, every probe, every fragment of the machine intelligence. The humans had apparently studied the Devourers' reproduction methods and were determined to prevent even one unit from escaping to rebuild elsewhere. 6 hours after the battle began, the Thessian system was completely free of Devourer presence. Not a single enemy construct remained functional, and the quantum interference network ensured that no signal could escape to warn other Devourer fleets. But Elena knew the most important part was what came next. Admiral Chen transported down to the command bunker, and her presence immediately commanded attention from every being in the room. She was tall for a human, with silver hair and scars that spoke of decades of combat experience. "Ambassador Kethvar," she said, "I understand your people have been defending this system for 7 months. I want you to know that your courage is the reason we're here. If you hadn't held the line, the Devourers would have spread much further by now." The ambassador seemed overwhelmed. "Admiral, we don't know how to thank you. Our entire civilization owes you a debt we can never repay." Admiral Chen smiled. "Ambassador, humanity doesn't do this for payment. We do it because it's right. But there is something we need to discuss." She activated a holographic display showing the entire galactic arm. "My intelligence reports indicate that there are at least 7 other Devourer fleets operating in different regions. The Galactic Council knows about them, but has decided that the threatened systems are too remote to defend." Elena watched the alien commanders exchange glances. They were beginning to understand the implications. "Admiral," General Thexmail said slowly, "are you suggesting—" "I'm suggesting that humanity has built a fleet specifically to deal with threats like the Devourers. We have the technology, the training, and the determination to eliminate them completely. But we can't be everywhere at once." Admiral Chen paused for effect. "We're proposing the formation of a new alliance, not with the core worlds or the Galactic Council, but with the species on the edges of civilization, the ones who actually face these threats while the Council debates and delays." Ambassador Kethvar leaned forward eagerly. "What would this alliance involve? Mutual defense, shared technology, and most importantly, a promise that no species will face extinction alone while any of us still draw breath. Humanity will provide the military backbone, but we'll need local knowledge, resources, and coordination from our allies." Elena felt a surge of pride as she watched the alien commanders realize what was being offered. Humanity wasn't just offering to fight alongside them. They were offering to share their technology, their tactics, and their commitment to protecting innocent life. Over the next several hours, the foundation of what would become known as the Outer Rim Alliance was laid. Species that had been ignored or abandoned by the Galactic Council found themselves part of a new organization dedicated to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. As the meeting concluded, Ambassador Kethvar approached Elena privately. "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Your species traveled across vast distances to help people you had never met, facing enemies you had never fought, for no reward except knowing you had done the right thing. Why?" Elena thought for a moment, then smiled. "Ambassador, humans have a saying, no one gets left behind. When we heard your plea for help, it didn't matter that we didn't know you, or that you were far away, or that helping you might be dangerous. What mattered was that you needed help, and we could provide it." She looked out at the tactical display showing the human fleet beginning to spread out across the sector, hunting down the last traces of Devourer presence. "In our history, we've learned that evil succeeds when good people do nothing. Today, we did something." The ambassador nodded slowly. "And now you're going to help other worlds facing the same threat?" "All of them," Elena confirmed. "Every last one. The Devourers have been spreading unchecked for too long, threatening innocent species while the major powers ignore the problem. That ends now." As Elena returned to the New Horizon, she received a message from Earth. The Defense Council had authorized the construction of 3 more fleets, along with permanent bases in the Outer Rim. Humanity was committed to this fight for the long term. She also received personal messages from thousands of human civilians offering to volunteer for the effort. Scientists wanting to help rebuild devastated worlds, doctors ready to treat alien refugees, engineers eager to share terraforming technology, and soldiers prepared to fight for people they had never met. It was, Elena reflected, the most human response possible. When faced with suffering, humanity didn't ask who deserved help or whether helping was profitable. They simply asked what needed to be done, and then they did it. The Devourers had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, consuming countless worlds while the major powers turned away. But they had made one critical error in their calculations. They had underestimated what happens when someone threatens innocent life within earshot of humanity. And now they were going to learn, one system at a time, why that was the last mistake they would ever make.